So at the start of 2021, my wife and I decided to sell a house, and we purchased a bare block of land, 3 acres just out of the city. Our intention was to build a house here. We wanted to come up with a bit of a plan, what we're going to do. There was quite a few options available to us. But over the course of 2021, basically the cost of the building went up too much and we weren't prepared to borrow that much money. So we put a bit of time into it to come up with a good plan, a plan that we're happy with what we're going to do. We've started that now. My nephews have thoroughly enjoyed using it as a motocross track in the meantime. As part of my planning, I went out there on the shortest day of the year. So this is sunrise, shortest day of the year. I wanted to document where the sun rose, where the sun hit, what was in shade. And then I got back the same day, got a photo at sunset as well. I also went out at lunchtime that day, and so where the pine trees are there's another hill there basically. So we lose the sun over the flat part of the land at midday. This was sunset on the longest day of the year. From this, I basically decided that the best place to build on this section is the top of the hill. It gets sun most of the year round. The cost of everything went up. The quotes that I had, there's my wife's Instagram photo. The quotes that I had, the prices I was given to do a lot of this work were horrendous. Because there is a building boom on and the guys don't need it. So I actually borrowed this machine off my wife's uncle. I'd never barely driven an excavator before this. And not really doing the work. I'd only just moved it from one location to another. But I started with this hedge. So this hedge was fully grown around an old barbed wire fence. There's barbed wire all through it. There's wire through it. There's old posts. It was all sorts. It was just too much mess really to get under control. So the only real option here was just to pull it out. These hedges are really spiky as well. Don't really want to be getting around it with a chainsaw or a saw or anything to pull it out. So I figured if I start with the hedge, teach myself to drive a digger while I'm pulling the hedge out, I can go from there. I also had to be wary of the power lines further down where the digger is there, and that's why I stopped at that point until I'd had the power company come out to tell us where the power cables were, and they were not much help. But anyway, so yeah, once I was happy that I was competent enough to pull out a hedge, I started putting on a drive. I started at the worst, but I suppose this was one of the steepest bits that I had to get the machine up. And if I wanted to move up and down, I knew I was going to have to be able to get the machine up there easier. So once I'd done that, there was sort of no turning back, I suppose. The kids, it's my nephew and daughter, they all had a great time while we were doing all this. So at that point, I could drive the machine up and down the hill. It was a bit of a milestone moment, being able to actually drive the machine up and down the hill without panicking that it's going to roll over. I don't think I actually would have rolled over at any point, but as someone that hadn't really spent a lot of time in a machine, it felt like it was going to. Eventually got to the point where I could drive trucks up, start putting some metal in. I told my older brother he was a certain thing for buying a VW, and he wanted to prove that they were a very capable four-wheel drive at this point. So instead of driving down the drive, he picked one of the steeper parts of the hill, and he did actually make it to the bottom. I cut that bit out because he did it very slowly. So yeah, in order to do this, my first step was to take the topsoil off, get down to the clay, and then I had to pack clay that I was removing back into the harder bits. Just there, if you look closely, you can see the dog sitting in the back of the digger. He thoroughly enjoyed it and wouldn't let me be in the machine without him. Yeah, like I say, the kids love playing in the dirt. So once I'd done the drive, pretty much decided that, yep, I'm not going to pay someone to do this, but my wife's uncle needed his digger back, so we asked her cousin if he could come along, and he brought his machine in, which was a little bit bigger. We brought in the tractor and trailer as well, and we started on the house site. So to start with, the first bit we did was we took all the topsoil off the hill. We didn't want to contaminate any of the clay with topsoil or vice versa, so as much as possible we loaded all of the topsoil from the top of the hill into the tractor, and we drove it down the bottom of the hill, and started piling it up. This was pretty cool. By this point, we'd had the section for like a year, and it felt like we were finally getting some progress. Pretty happy with it. And my daughter loved sitting in the tractor while we were driving around in circles all day. I don't know how many loads up and down I did. I'd never really driven a tractor before this, so this was me learning to drive a tractor. And at the start here, it was not very good, but got there over the course of the job, I suppose. So yeah, I don't know how many loads I did up and down of topsoil, up and down that hill. We wanted to save a lot of the topsoil because I'll try and put some of it back when we're putting it into the lawn. It also amazed me how many people just stopped in off the street and asked if they could have a little bit of topsoil. We even had one guy, as we were nearly finished, we had one guy turn up and ask if we could come and do a job for him. He wanted to hire us to do a job for him. Both of us work full-time jobs, so it was, we felt like maybe we actually did know what we were doing. So this is the view that we've got from our building platform. I think this was before we got down to level, but this was when we'd stripped all the topsoil off. It felt like we were getting somewhere at this point, Still a lot of dirt to move at this point. You see here how much dirt we actually had to move in order to do it. From taking the knob off the top of the hill, all we really did was move it to the side. So when we come to putting a house in here, we'll be putting the house on the hard pack rather than on any of the fill. What we're going to be doing is we're actually going to shift a house on. It's a house that was on a section in another town. That section was purchased by a developer who wanted to put more houses on than what the old houses had. So we've purchased it off a house removal company, and they are going to load it on the back of a truck. It's not on the section anymore. It's actually in the house removal company's yard. My daughter had great fun this day, putting grass seed around. So we threw grass seed around before the rain came in, just to try and hold all of that dirt in place. Hoping that enough roots would get in just to help hold it. So yeah, the house that we're bringing in is a 1920s bungalow. It needs a bit of love. Needs a lot of love, actually. It's a solid house, but it's a bit dated. It needs a new roof. It needs a new bathroom, new kitchen. Some of the colour schemes are a bit off. But that's the building site where we're going to put it. So we wanted to document this for ourselves, but we thought, well, other people may also find it interesting. So yeah, we'll see how we go.